I don't stand side by side with nobody till I bleed with them first.
What did we just see? You probably think this world is a dream come true.
When I step into this ring, yeah, bro, I am addicted.
Don't sleep on Luca!
Maybe tomorrow we'll all wear 42.
If you fight for your dreams will fight for you!
Growing up, most of my music taste came from my father. All the bands that he introduced me to, all the music that he would introduce me to. And of course, growing up in the 2000s, unlike many others, I grew up with the rock genre, and I got to be blessed by my father with just a plethora of bands, such as Linkin Park, which, rest in peace to Chester Bennington 6 years ago to this day. All-time favorite band, favorite album of all time was Hybrid Theory. Got introduced to 3 Days Grace through my dad, Evanescence, Flyleaf, so many other bands, but there's one that stood out from the beginning, one that's very special to me, and it all started June 11, 2007, when this band released their second studio album, and on that album was their biggest record to date, and it was through that record that my dad introduced me to them, and thus sparked this giant snowball to the point where we are now. That band, of course, is Paramore, and their second studio album, Riot, which contained the hit song Misery Business. And from there, like I said, it was just a snowball effect. From there, it was the rest of the record, such as songs like That's What You Get, Let the Flames Begin, Crush, 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 We Are Broken, Born for This. Then we moved on to Brand New Eyes, where we had records like Brick by Boring Brick, Playing God, Ignorance, The Only Exception, All I Wanted. Then as I went into middle school and high school, we got the self-titled, we got After Laughter, records such as Ain't It Fun, Still Into You, Hard Times, 26, Rose Colored Boy, among many other greats that they have. And that's not to exclude their debut album, which is also very well put together as well. And this year, as you all know, I ended up making a review for their sixth album release, This Is Why, one that we had been waiting for just as long of a time almost. And that album is very special because it sparked this channel. It sparked me to come out and create content, to talk about the music I love, to talk about plethora of other topics such as the wrestling I love, baseball, soon in a couple months football, and just to come, and soon, hopefully one day, I'm going to start covering other things such as potentially movies and shows. And so, as you can tell, Paramore has a very special place in my heart as a band, and to sort of show that, as you can tell, this episode is a bit more off the top of my head in a sense, because I just wanted to get all the raw thoughts and emotions out, because yesterday I was at the Kia Forum for my first ever Paramore concert, and what an experience it truly was. I had floor seats. My cousin and I, we spent some money. The funniest story about it was we went to a Post Malone concert with some other family members, and it was during that show, because it was taking so long, all the intermissions were taking so long, we decided to look on Ticketmaster, and we're like, we both really love Paramore. And I was like, man, I was looking at the tickets and they were pretty expensive, but the next thing you know, we look, there's a deal, we see floor seats for a pretty reasonable price, and we're like, you know what, let's do it, And as we talked on the way over to the show, we both said, as expensive as it was, we wanted to take the risk, because you never know what could happen. Paramore could announce they're on hiatus. Paramore could have announced that this last album was their retirement, And I'm just glad to have made my way out to finally see one of probably my top 3 favorite artists of all time, especially because, it's such a hole in my heart in the sense that out of my top 3, I only got to see 2 out of the 3. I got to see 3 Days Grace with Adam Gontier. I got to see Paramore now. I just sadly never got to go see Linkin Park, but that's the reason why I especially said, you know what, just got to take that risk and go see Paramore, even if it's a bit pricey in a sense, but I truly thought it was worth it. But it was just truly a once in a lifetime experience, and I can't wait to get into it. But of course, starting off, we gotta talk about the opening act. Alright, maybe I'll admit I wasn't necessarily fully prepared for floor seats. We were standing for quite some time. I want to say we stood for like a total of 7 hours because it was waiting in the lines, then having to wait for the floor to open for us to go in, and then having to wait through all the intermissions and all that. But I will say, in my personal opinion, I was actually quite fond of the opening acts. And the first one that came out was a band called the Linda Lindas. And it's funny because they had their setup. You could see on the drums it had the name. And upon doing research after the show, it kind of confirmed my like initial thought. And that was given my background, my first instinct when looking at the name was, I wonder if it's pronounced the Linda Lindas, because Linda in Spanish means like cute, or like basically it's kind of like a compliment, like basically saying someone looks good, they look cute and all that. So I was like, I wonder if that's what it is, and maybe it's not, maybe it isn't. But like as I looked into the group, I saw that I think like 3 of the members are of Hispanic descent. I'm pretty sure. Apologize if I'm wrong. I'm just looking at the information that I can find online. But so that was sort of my thought. Who knows? But upon them entering, I was immediately, interested, because I was like, they're doing one thing that a lot of people don't, whether it's in the wrestling world, the music world. They had a very unique presentation to them, especially one of the members who was in this, like, it's truly a tough way to describe it, but like it was a real like beautiful silver outfit, and a part of me was like, man, how could you perform in that because of how hot it is? But they went out and put on a good show. I really enjoyed their songs. I'm looking forward to exploring more of their work. And one thing one initial thought that I had, and I hope people don't look at this as like a negative, but as I was watching them, I was like, they definitely seem young, and they definitely seem like, in a sense, I wanted to say, I don't think the word inexperienced is correct, but it'll make sense like when I give the context, in the sense of like, I guess I looked at them as like, oh, they're likely, new in a sense. And so as I was watching them, I was like, I definitely see the potential in them. And the one thing I was just like thinking was like, they have good stage presence. I see the potential for them to improve it in a sense, like I was like they still had good energy, they had good presence, but like, when it comes to, I to this day I still can't find this video, but there was like a video on YouTube that talked about how, like what separates certain bands from one another, and one thing they talked about was like the overall personality, and the whole thing about like stage presence when it comes to the lead singer of a group, in a sense, or the lead singers or the members, in essentially, like if you're talking about all of them. And one that they obviously mentioned was Paramore with Hayley Williams, and how she easily knows how to capture a crowd and all that. So that was something I was noticing with them. And I was like, I was like, man, they really have something here, as if they keep like improving and all that. And then I ended up getting the reasoning as to why they seem so, I don't like the word, I think there's a better word to use, but quote unquote inexperienced. So they had mentioned that they were on summer break, and so me and my cousin were like, we didn't say anything to each other, but we both thought, oh, they're probably in college, Then next thing you know, before one of their songs, like, oh, I want to introduce each of our members. On the drums, she's 12. Everyone in the crowd essentially just all looked at each other like, huh? And then we find out that one of the other members is like 15, the other one's 16, and the final member was 18. So, yeah, they are very much young, very much new. So I was taken aback, and instantly I was like, you know what? That's why I can see them having some great potential and being able to grow, because they're still very young and yet they're still very good at what they're doing. She is 12 and she is that good at playing the drums, that good with her vocals from what I was hearing, you know. And from all of them, like they all four members had real good energy, real good vocals, were really good at performing. And again, like I said, they had some pretty good stage presence for how young they are, and I can easily see them growing and, you know, just getting better at their craft if they stay dedicated to it all. And it's just so surprising that when they said summer break, they meant, oh, we're on summer break from middle school and high school. I was taken aback. I made the joke to my cousin. I'm like, if she's 12 and opening for Paramore, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Very much just impressive work. The next group that opened up for Paramore right after was a band called Foles, and they are from the UK, I believe, because they mentioned both them and Paramore mentioned that they are from across the pond, as the phrase that they use, and they were pretty good as well. You know, I really liked a lot of the instrumentals that they had. Like they have a real knack for song composition, if that's the way I want to put it. Like they had some excellent instrumentals in a lot of their songs. I will admit the vocals in some parts were a bit difficult to hear. Essentially the same thing with the Linda Lindas as well, where it was like I had a couple times trouble hearing, you know, the vocals exactly, like, but you know, it still made me intrigued enough that I was like, I want to definitely check out what this band specifically sounds like in a studio setting, meaning, you know, I want to go listen to like their songs or albums on streaming services to hear what it sounds like in a clearer, more put together way. And that's not to say that they're bad performers, you know, that's just to say that, you know, I, with what I was hearing, I was like, it sounds this good live. I really wonder what it sounds like in a pair of headphones, you know, being able to listen to it when it's clear and cut, you know. Real good opening acts and real good selection from Paramore, you know, like they chose some real good groups to open up for them, and it just makes me excited to check out more music, because as I was telling my cousin, I'm like, it just feels so hard to find, you know, newer, in a sense, rock music in this day and age now, you know. And so I'm just excited to now have two more groups to kind of look into and see what they're about, you know. But how about we get into the main event? So like I said, there's that one video that was talking about essentially what separates a lot of different artists. And the big one, obviously, that what that video ended up mentioning was Paramore. And essentially the video wasn't, I don't think it was talking down any artist, but essentially the main message of it was saying that, you know, it really shows the difference in, I guess you can say, how far a group goes, because the way they were putting it, even though there's these different artists are widely successful in their genres, they were saying, you know, like a group like Paramore got, I guess you would, if you would say, more mainstream attention because of just their overall personality, you know. And it's not to highlight one member, but you know, the one that they always highlight because she's the lead singer is Hayley Williams. And because of just, you know, how she controls a crowd, her stage presence and all that, her overall personality, you know, it's much easier to essentially, I guess the argument that person was making in that video was it's much easier to market your group and push it forward when you have, I guess, a more outgoing personality, at least when it comes to being on stage and in terms of the music. Now, I could probably look into it more and, you know, come up with my own thoughts, because I do think you don't necessarily need this huge outgoing personality to be a successful musician. But it was just something interesting to note, especially because we get to Paramore's part, and the difference in presentation from other groups to them is just clear and cut. You know, we started off the night with this like crazy video, you know, and like you're it's almost like they're forcing you into this setting, you know, and you're just so enthralled by it all. And then boom, they make their way out, and the first song we get is You First, and it was just amazing energy to start off the night and all that. I really love this song from this record as well, and she knows how to get a crowd going. And I can't remember. It's funny. It was the night before, but I just have bad memory. But she makes a couple stops. But from what I remember, she did You First, and then they did The News. And I think I can't remember if they did That's What You Get after. I know that was the third song, but what I'm trying to say is, like, she took a while before making there be a break to, like, talk to the crowd. And that's what I really liked, was that they had that energy going, like, right from the start. Like, they waited a bit before slowing things down. That's another thing with the set list that they chose. They did a real good job of really controlling the pace. It's something I mentioned, or I hope I mentioned it in my This Is Why album review. They in that album they did a real good job of the pacing, where they started off with such crazy high fast paced songs, and then they slowed it down a bit towards the middle before picking it up back again, and then having this sort of like strong yet mellow finish with Crave and Thick Skull. And they did something similar here, where they went out first with You First, The News, and That's What You Get to get the crowd. Oh, and Playing God. They started off with those four to get them, like, real hyped. And then they went, with a bit more, again, I would say more of a sort of mellow mood, not necessarily, like, sad or down, but, like, they went with Caught in the Middle and Rose Colored Boy from After Laughter, which, if you've heard After Laughter, you know just how much of a sort of, like, dancey, vibey album it is. So, they went from, like, those first four songs really getting the hype in to now they're getting everyone in the groove. They also did Running Out of Time, which has a similar feel, though it's a bit harder. And then, again, because it's a bit of a harder song, that sets the mood for them to go right into Decode, which I was so happy that they played. I was, that song, that was one I forgot to mention hearing from my childhood as I went on. And it's funny because I'm sorry too if I offend anyone, but as my dad and I say, that's the only good thing to have come out of the Twilight series, was Paramore making that song, which I don't know if it was specifically made for Twilight, but it was included in the soundtrack, and hey, that, to me, that's the only good thing that came out of that series of movies. After that, we had Big Man, Little Dignity, we had Liar, this is when things like, we got a real cool, like, sort of slow down moment, with the next couple of songs with Liar and Crystal Clear. And I really liked how it was funny. We saw Hayley Williams, like, run off stage to like it looked like she was just going to say hello to the crowd, and we didn't know what song, or I didn't know, because I go into these blind. I don't like looking at set lists and getting spoiled ahead of time. But so, like, it was looking like she was playing with the crowd, and the next thing you know, like, when it came to Big Man, Little Dignity, they just, like, kept playing, like, the final part of it, and we're like, man, wait, where did she go? And then, like, you see Zach and Taylor go off the stage as well, and we're like, and in the back of my mind, I don't know what anyone else was thinking, but I, obviously, because we couldn't see from Florida, I was like, did she accidentally fall? Did she get hurt or something? But then next thing you know, they pop up on this, like, rising stage to perform Liar and Crystal Clear, which was very beautiful. I really liked the way they did that. All you could really see was their silhouettes, so it added to the whole mood of it all. That was real fun. And then, of course, I forget at what point it was, but I have to mention it. They introduced themselves, and it was so funny. And it just goes to show just the amazing person that she is. Hayley Williams introduced each of her members, and I'll shout them out here. I had it prepared. So, as you know, you got Hayley Williams on vocals, you got Taylor York on guitar, and you got Zach Farrow on drums. But you can't go without mentioning the musicians that have joined them when touring. Joey Howard on bass, Logan McKenzie on synths and guitar, Joseph Mullen on percussion and drums, and Brian Robert Jones on guitar. And Joey Howard and Brian Robert Jones actually do some backup vocals from time to time. Those four are amazing as well. You gotta shout them out. As Haley said afterwards, if you're writing a review of this show, there's their names, so you can't just say Hayley Williams and the rest of Paramore. There is no rest of Paramore. I love that she gives as much credit, and I do as well. Every single time I give as much credit to every single person that's involved in the music making of Paramore's music. It's all of them as a whole. Like I said, sometimes people just like to give her the main credit because she's the lead vocals, but it's not just Hayley Williams, because these songs aren't as effective without Zach and Taylor's production on it, and it's made even more amazing with the 4 amazing men that joined them on touring with Joey Howard, Logan McKenzie, Joseph Mullen, and Brian Robert Jones. Those 4 were absolutely amazing. I really loved the energy that all 4 men had. They truly match the energy and vibes that, you know, Hayley, Taylor, and Zach have as well. Just 7 extremely fun individuals that were extremely fun to see live. And then after that portion with Liar and Crystal Clear, we got Hard Times, which was very fun. I think the funnest part was just how dedicated that crowd was. And it caught Hayley Williams a bit off guard at times because of how often we all knew the lyrics and knew what to do, you know? Like, I think it's with Rose Colored Boy, where it starts off with the low key, no pressure. And she started off, she was like, oh, you know, I'm going to say the first part, you know, that we have to sing, and then you guys have to, and then we'll do like, cause she was saying, oh, it's broken up into 2 parts. And so she was like, okay, repeat after me, low key, no pressure. And then before she could even say, just hang with me in my weather, the crowd immediately sung it back, and she was like, oh, you guys are prepared. And it was the same thing for Hard Times. It was the same thing for almost every song, where that crowd just like knew every single word. It was so fun. We had Told You So. We had Figure 8, which that was the song I was most excited to see a live performance of, other than a couple others where I was like, this song, I just want to see like what they do for it. And the visuals of it all were just so beautiful. And then we had The Only Exception, which was a very emotional song from the night. I really enjoyed listening, being able to hear that one live. Along with that, Crave, oh man, being able to hear those vocals live for Crave was just amazing, and it just really matched the emotion you get when listening to that song, you know. Then we had Zach come up to do a song from his band, Half Noise. That was real fun. The energy was real fun with that, and it was fun to see Zach have fun. And speaking of that, I just love the overall vibe and friendship and love that all 7 members have. Because I forgot to mention, when they were introducing the members, Hayley goes to introduce herself last, and Zach like really started playing it up, and she got kind of mad at him, but it was like a playful mad, and it was just funny to see that she was kind of I guess if you want to say a little shy or embarrassed at the fact of how much, you know, the crowd was showing love to her and all that. It was just a fun moment. And again, it was fun to see Zach's energy when performing this song as well. And then, of course, we closed out the original set list with Misery Business and Ain't It Fun. 2 amazing songs to close with, 2 arguably their biggest songs, obviously. And you got to shout it out. During Misery Business, she was trying to find someone to sing the last portion of the song, and she found a fan. I believe her name was Tamika, who had said she had been a fan of Paramore since 2006. And it was just so surprising to see so many fans like that. Like, I saw a fan whose sign said, you know, they have been a fan since they were 6 years old and they're now 22. There was someone in the crowd, like, next to me, I heard them say they were, like, 30. Because they were asking about, like, you know, oh, who's been to a Paramore show before? You know, who's been to multiple? Who's his first time is it now? And all that. And it was just crazy hearing, you know, just how wide of a range they have of fans. But so she selected Tamika, and it was just so fun and happy to see someone, you know, living out what is probably like a lifelong dream of theirs, to, you know, something that they likely, you know, didn't think was ever going to happen, being able to perform on stage with Paramore, you know. And she brought that energy. She brought the overall fun. You could tell everyone in that crowd was happy for her, you know. You could, like, obviously people were probably like, man, I wish that was me, you know, and all that, but like the way the fans were, there wasn't, like, to me, it just felt like there wasn't an ounce of jealousy there. Like, everyone was just so happy for her to be getting this moment, and, you know, it was just so fun to see that happen. And of course, we ended off with Ain't It Fun, and that was fun. And then they go off the stage to leave, and everyone's just like, who you fooling? We know that's not it. We know we got an encore. And they come back out. And I was very surprised to hear them perform All I Wanted because from what I remember hearing before, the high notes in that song really kind of put a strain on Haley's vocals. And as we know from the This Is Why album review, she has put such an immense care into taking care of her vocals, you know. So I was very surprised to see her perform it, but she does. And the biggest probably pop of the night was the fact that she brought out Billie Eilish and the crowd just went absolutely insane for that. It was crazy. I didn't even think she was going to be bringing out anyone. I was like, oh, this is Paramore. I doubt, they bring out anyone. But they brought out Billie Eilish to perform that. They performed Still Into You, which, man, it was fun to sing along and hear that. Learning to love that song again. And then we closed it out with, the title track of this all, This Is Why. And it was very fun, and it just closed off an absolutely magical night. Just an absolute blessing to have been a part of it, to have been there, and it was an overall just a fun experience. I have no complaints even after all that standing, even when there was times where I didn't think I was going to be able to actually stick through it all. I stuck through it. I had so much fun. Me and my cousin just felt so blessed and felt like I truly have no words for it, the way I described it when thinking about it to myself was just simply, it felt like such a cathartic experience. This is a group I've listened to all my life. Their music has helped me so dearly in multiple situations, whether I'm happy, whether I'm sad, whether I'm in love or heartbroken, whether I'm going through the worst of times or the best of times. Their music has always been there to match any mood I needed them for, and that's what separates my top 3 artists of all time from any other artist in the world, whether it was Linkin Park, whether it was 3 Days Grace of Adam Gontier, or Paramore, it was those 3 that their music, no matter what emotion it was, they were there for you, they were there to make you feel heard. They were there to give you the answers you were looking for through their music. They were there to offer a shoulder to cry on and a hand to lift you up, and that's overall what music has been in my life, was something that, was a blessing to me, that it's always been there for me. I always tell people music is God's blessing to me because it's his way of not only connecting with me, but me feeling heard. I know a lot of people can probably relate that there's many times where they just feel like they aren't properly being heard, or like people, like how it comes with music sometimes. You're listening, but are you really hearing what they're saying, and that's how it feels sometimes. But with these 3 artists, that's how it always felt. And so it was a cathartic experience to finally see this group live, to hear the songs that I've grown up for, almost my entire life hearing, I want to say it's obviously a decade plus of listening to their music, and it's about to be 20 years soon, and come in 3 years, 4 years, it's going to be 20 years. And again, it's just, it truly was a once in a lifetime experience to see them, to see that happen, to hear all those songs. My only complaint, and it's not on the fault of Paramore, there was people handing out these things that said during the last chorus of Last Hope, put your flashlight on, and this paper over it to make it seem like a flame, because it was an orange paper. Those people fooled me into thinking I was going to hear Last Hope, and it didn't happen. So again, that's not on Paramore. That's on whoever those people got their information from, because they did not perform Last Hope. Although I wish they did, but at the same time, I don't think I would have changed a single thing about this concert. It was just absolutely amazing, and I'm just so happy to have been here for it. I'm just so happy to have been able to experience this all, and it just makes me so excited for the futures that's to come, you know, because there's so much out there in the world for us to explore. There's so many concerts for us to look into, so many different events to look into, and even just the little things like, you know, being able to talk about the experience here for a video, or being able to talk with my family about it and talk about the absolute fun I had. You know, that's the one thing that I think I take away from the show, and I think everyone else should, is that, you know, every little thing matters, and, you know, you should make the most of it all, you know, because you never know when you're gonna get that chance again.